What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And as we told you guys, it's Combine Week, and of course that means that NFL GMs are meeting with players, players are meeting with other players. It's a whole lot of landscaping going on in the NFL right now, shifting of the tides, rather, and Saquon Barkley is at the center of attention once again. We know that Saquon Barkley is going to be a free agent this offseason after signing that one-year deal with the Giants last offseason. The Giants, of course, franchise tagged him, came to terms on a revised version of the franchise tag, but now, here we are 1 year later, and the Giants again have to make a decision on Saquon Barkley. The two sides had a productive meeting at the Combine, or at least the Giants met with Saquon's representatives at the Combine, I believe yesterday or today, but now also we're hearing rumors. Saquon Barkley been in constant communication with CJ Stroud of the Houston Texans, reportedly has a lot of interest in joining the Texans in free agency this offseason. So we're going to go ahead, unpack all this news, dive into it, what it means for the Giants, what it means for Saquon Barkley, and everything else in between. But before we do so, make sure you leave a like if you do enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you listen to Apple or Spotify, please make sure you leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what is your reaction, first and foremost, to Saquon Barkley being in communication with CJ Stroud and expressing a lot of interest in joining the Texans?
Well, I'll tell you what, when you have a contract like CJ Stroud's, it makes it a little bit easier to spend to other positions. And I wish the Giants had a similar situation and Barkley was a luxury item we could add and bolster our offense. But unfortunately, we're on the opposite side of that equation in that we don't have the money. Or, well, we do, but do you really want to allocate it to the running back position? And the Giants reportedly had a good conversation with his representatives. And, you know, they have $10 million more than they originally thought. So it opens up the door slightly, cracks it open. If you play Call of Duty, you know, you can open the door slightly. That's what it's like for Saquon Barkley and the Giants right now. And the truth is, I still don't see it happening. The primary reason, Joe Shane said the running back market is saturated. He is not going to pay top dollar. The Giants are not in a position right now to pay the biggest contract to a running back on the market when you have guys like Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, and much more. Paying the most lucrative deal to a running back is like the opposite of what all analytical equations would tell you to do. But Saquon Barkley means a lot more to the Giants than just production. He's a leader. He's an intangible piece to this product here. And yes, the Giants have not been good with Saquon, but is that really his fault? Obviously not. Offensive line, turnover of coaching staff, quarterback play. There's a lot of different variables that have impacted Saquon's time here in the Giants, and the Giants offense being lackluster for years. So, investing that money in the offensive line might be my preference, taking that $10 million, $11 million and saying, hey, let's go make sure we don't lose Mike Onwenu on the free agent market. Let's go get Jermaine Illuminor and Robert Hunt. Let's give our offensive line here something special and draft a running back in the mid-rounds like a Trey Benson or an Audric Estime or, a Jalen Wright or whatever it might be, and find our running back there, keep the costs low, invest in the offensive line, boost our passing game. The difference between, would you rather have Saquon Barkley or a starting right guard that's above average? That's kind of the conversation some people will play at. Would you rather have a starting right tackle or Saquon Barkley, one that's good? That's the conversation. Like, would you rather have the offensive line be the best it's been in the better part of a decade, or would you rather have Saquon Barkley? I think that those things compromise one another. I don't think the Giants have all the money in the world to go and spend aimlessly at multiple positions. Saquon Barkley likely takes up the money you need to add another offensive line piece or bring back Xavier McKinney. You could look at it that way too. So, Anthony, looking at the perspective of that, it's kind of, you have to sacrifice something to get Saquon back. And that could be an offensive line piece. What is your take on it? I know you're a proponent of kind of building the offensive line, reinforcing that unit, getting a better passing game, and maybe if that means sacrificing Barkley, so be it. But, I want to get your thoughts on kind of the positional value there.
Yeah, listen, it is a saturated market. As Joe Shane mentioned, as you mentioned that he mentioned, the running back position is a little bit of a dime a dozen right now. And that's unfortunately the nature of the beast. And it's just the reality of the NFL. And it's not going to change until the CBA expires and gets renegotiated. Like, it sucks to say because, of course, Saquon Barkley deserves a contract. He deserves to get paid at the highest level for playing at the highest level over the last 4 years. But the running back position, the way that it's set up, you're on that rookie contract, and by the time that contract expires, it's really tough to get that contract because running backs are pretty much reaching that decline by age 27, age 28, and it's hard to argue against the fact that Saquon Barkley is beginning to decline. He is not the same player. Go ahead, guys, watch the 2018 highlights, his rookie year highlights. Saquon Barkley now looks nothing like that player in 2018. Go look at his 2019 and 2020 clips if you want to as well. I know he was injured one of those seasons, and unfortunately, that's been a big part of the equation here. Saquon Barkley's been injured many times throughout his career. It's caused him to take a step backwards in his production. It's caused him to lose a step, lose a little bit of that explosiveness that made him such a lethal force when he was a rookie in 2018. Saquon Barkley still does a lot for the New York Giants. He was their bell cow this last season. He can handle 30 carries in a game if he needs to. He can game break, and he can score touchdowns from any portion of the field. He can still do all these things, and he's an excellent leader in the locker room. However, is he worth paying $12 million per season? For this New York Giants team, you might argue yes, because you need to maintain that leadership in the locker room and you need to keep those key pieces on your offense. But you might argue no, because this is a team with a lot of holes, and if you don't invest that money into Saquon Barkley, you could spread that money out to other positions like you just mentioned, Alex. Maybe you sacrifice Saquon Barkley and you invest that money into the offensive line. That could potentially buy you a new right tackle and a new right guard if you structure those contracts accordingly. And that's a huge deal. I think that a running back could find more success with less talent. Being a less talented running back than Saquon Barkley could find more success with more talent in front of them than Saquon Barkley could with less talent in front of him, if that makes sense. So essentially what I'm saying is you could sign a guy like a DeAndre Swift. No, he is not as talented as Saquon Barkley. He is not the same player. But he's coming in at a fraction of the price, probably half as much as Saquon Barkley is going to get on the open market. So that other half that you didn't invest into Saquon, invest that into a right guard or a right tackle. If the offensive line is better in front of DeAndre Swift, I think that he'll have a better season than Saquon Barkley would have if the Giants can't afford to improve their offensive line. So that's the argument that I would make here for the New York Giants if they are considering moving on from Saquon Barkley. And I know it's going to be tough. He was the number 2 overall pick for the Giants in 2018. He was the offensive rookie of the year all the way back then. But we keep talking about back then for Saquon Barkley. I don't hear a whole lot of people talk about what a dominant force he was in 2023 because, frankly, he wasn't one. He was a good running back in 2023. He was not an elite running back in 2023. Maybe I'm spewing hot takes right now. Maybe I'm being a little too blunt, a little too bold here, Alex. Slow me down if you need to. But I don't think that Saquon Barkley was this elite game-breaking playmaker in 2023 like he has been in years past. And I'm sorry for being a little too blunt about this, but I just don't think that he is the same player that he used to be, and the New York Giants should not be paying him like he's the same player that he used to be. That's just the nature of the situation, the reality of the situation. So Barkley's still a really important person in the Giants locker room. I would love to have him back for the next 5 years if possible at the right price point. But he's going to get paid this offseason, and I don't think the Giants can afford to pay him. Another team with a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, that's the team that can pay Saquon Barkley. But when you have $40 million tied up to your quarterback, it's kind of tough to spend another $12 million per season on your running back. That's the nature of the NFL salary cap. And again, I love Saquon Barkley, guys. Don't get it twisted. Don't get me wrong. I want him back in Giants blue, but I want him back at the right price point. And unfortunately, I want him to also get his right price point. I want him to get paid fairly. And this New York Giants team, so many holes on the offensive line. Before we started recording, Alex, we were talking about safety and cornerback and all these other positions that the Giants need to fill this offseason. How do you fill those positions if you're spending $12 million per season on your running back? I don't think you can. So again, I'd rather make the argument that a DeAndre Swift or a Zach Moss, that level of a player in free agency, you sign that, and the money that you save from signing that player as opposed to Saquon Barkley, you throw that into the offensive line, and you probably create greater production out of that lesser paid running back by having a higher graded offensive line. That's the way that I see it.
Yeah, I mean, look, the truth is that a star running back is kind of the last piece of the puzzle. Like if you're the 49ers, you bring in Christian McCaffrey because he's like the last piece to your puzzle. I just don't think that we're even close to finishing this puzzle. You know what I mean? It's like adding the luxury. It's like that meme of that guy having the Bugatti and his rundown house in Florida. You know what I mean? It's like that's kind of what Saquon Barkley is to this team. Like he's like a Bugatti and next to a house in the parking lot of a house that is not very nice. And I think ultimately it sucks because I wish we could have put it all together by the time that we got to this point, but unfortunately we didn't. And while you were speaking, Anthony, the Giants rather, announced that they're bringing back Darren Waller for the 2024 season. So there's the $7 million they would have saved there. Obviously, they are going to allocate a little bit more, $14 million cap hit for him next upcoming year. He was actually contemplating retirement. So by this, what it sounds like to me, Anthony, is that they're going to keep Waller for 2024, and he's probably going to retire after next season. So that contract, the rest of that contract, probably won't mean anything. So that's probably what they're thinking. Give our quarterback as many weapons as possible. Hope he stays healthy, and then we go from there. $14 million cap hit for a player like Waller when he is healthy is a steal, especially if you add a Malik Neighbors to the equation or a quarterback that can take us to another level. So we'll see how it goes. But keeping Waller, not a bad move because it's probably we're never gonna see the end of that contract. He's gonna retire most likely after this upcoming season, and the Giants will walk away without any dead money or any bad situations in the future. So, I'll let you get your take on that, and then we'll move on to the next episode, which will be talking about the new prospects that the Giants have met with.
Yeah, the Darren Waller news is interesting. I read that they're welcoming him back with open arms. I'm a little surprised by that just because it wasn't the season that we expected from Darren Waller in 2023. A lot of injuries, didn't make that impact that we wanted him to. But he'll be back in 2024, and I know that we've gone back and forth on this a few times, Alex, and we've mentioned the Giants could be losing a top playmaker in Saquon Barkley. That's the topic of this episode. I think that ties into this Darren Waller conversation, right? Because how many playmakers are you going to lose this offseason? How many can you afford to lose? How little continuity can you have in this offense going into 2024? So when you're losing your top playmaker, most likely, as we feel with Saquon Barkley, you better keep your other top playmaker in the receiving game, which is Darren Waller. So I think that there's an argument to be made here that the Giants are right to keep Darren Waller. However, the contract, the price point is high, and is it worth paying a guy that's not going to play every game for you this season? He's probably going to play about 10. That's what Darren Waller usually does. I'm not sure if he's worth his contract when he's only playing 10 games per season, but I think that you can make similar arguments for other players on this team as well. But Darren Waller being back next season, contemplating retirement, I do think that indicates this will be his final season in the NFL. And again, I think that ties into the fact that he's constantly hurt and it's caught up with him. And he's probably done with being injured all the time and constantly being in pain. So this season, I think that you could probably bet on him missing some time with injuries since he's contemplating retirement, most likely due to injuries, and the toll that's had on his body and probably on his mental health. So I think that you can bet on Darren Waller missing time with injuries this season and retiring in 2025. But Darren Waller is still a good player for the Giants. I think he'll make an impact. I just don't know if his impact is going to be worth his contractual price point. And again, that's the argument that many Giants fans will also make for Saquon Barkley. So Saquon Barkley could end up a Houston Texan this offseason, could end up an LA Charger, or maybe, just maybe, the New York Giants will find a way to extend him at an affordable price point while also reinvesting some of that money into the offensive line, which is, of course, as I've said, what I would like to see them do. That offensive line, first and foremost, needs to get fixed. Your running back will be better if your offensive line is better. Your quarterback will be better if your offensive line is better. Your quarterback will not be better, and your offensive line will not be better if your running back is good. It's the other way around. That's my argument that I'm making here. But of course, if you guys disagree with me, let me have it down below in the comment section. I want to hear it. It's all opinions. It's all, open for debate anyway. So if you don't like what I said, let me know. And I'm open to hearing your opinions and perspectives on the Saquon Barkley saga down below in the comment section. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you listen to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.